See, now that question has fabric, because I actually had a moment this year, April 2nd. A while ago, a man told me something a long time ago. He said, listen, we all get phone calls throughout our life. He said some of us ignore them and some of us answer them. I never understood what he meant by that, but he's true. We go through our life partying, smoking, drinking, doing shit, right? So you get that phone call like when it's like, oh, I need to quit because of such and such and such. Or I need to not hang out no more because of such and such. It's like a little cliche type of thing. Knowing that I had responsibility because I matter and things I need to do and get done. I was drunk. And so April 2nd, I received that phone call. It's a subliminal thing. It's a conscious thing. So I go upstairs in the bathroom. I'm drunk. I'm drinking, drunk. And I wash my hands, and then it was so strange. I'm sharing with y'all a moment that I ain't even let my girl know. I told her, but not the real moment. I was afraid to look in the mirror. And the type of dude I am, before I walked out the back, I was just having a really like a funny, serious moment. It was like, you look in the mirror, look at yourself. And before I walked out the bathroom, I was like, and then I stopped. April 2nd, 2023. And I told myself I ain't drinking no more, and I ain't drank since then. It's been over 6 months. It's cold turkey. I woke up the next day, it was literally gone out my system. There was a moment that I knew. I was like, yo, hold up. I got kids. Plus, I want more. I never owned a home and things like that. Like having my credit established. Nah, I want to leave a home to the kids more. You feel me? I want to invest into some things. That type of more. So I was like, yo, in order to do that, I got to clear up. And so that's what happened. I cleared up. And I've been rolling ever since.
Well, all right, fine. Well, I was married for a long time to the father of my children, and I realized after trying that I was not as good a person as I should have been with him, and I think he wasn't as good a person as he should have been with me. It's never any one person's fault, but I realized that had to change, and I had to make the change because that wasn't a change he was ever going to make. We could just have been locked in this bad dynamic with each other, and I think we're both better people when we're not together, but it wasn't easy to make that change or to make the decision to make that change. So I would say that. I'm glad I did it. I kind of wish I had done it earlier, but there were some reasons why I waited. So I'm glad it happened when it happened. And it wasn't an easy thing for the kids or for either of us, but I think it was the right thing. I'm not a perfect person, but I've come a long way, I think, trying to be better. So.
I had just come home from the Marine Corps. It was like a month. I had just got a hand surgery. And I was sitting there just after physical therapy. At the time, I was just kind of doing nothing. I didn't really have friends. They were all on military bases across the world. And I sat down with myself, and I was just like, this is not a life I want to live. I didn't have to have a job. The Marine Corps was still paying me. Like, I didn't need to have a job. The next day I went out and I got a job because it's not like I did it for the money, but like I was meeting people and I was not being home alone with my thoughts. And that was how I met my boyfriend. That was how I met one of my best friends now. Like, one of the best things I did when I came home was get a job. It changed my life.
When my first son was born, I wasn't raised in a good home. I wanted him to be a good person, but I didn't know how to make that happen since I didn't feel like I was a good person. I remember laying him down in his bed. He was about 3 months old, and I came back in the living room and I just started crying because I didn't want him to grow up in the environment that I grew up in. And so I started praying and I asked God to help me, what was I supposed to do? And I started thinking about the people that I had known in my life that were good or happy. And the one thing they all had in common is they went to church. And so I just prayed and I told God, I'm not going to just walk into a church by myself, but if you'll send someone to invite me, then I'll go. And the very next day, I walked into a 7-Eleven and I saw this girl that I used to party with, and I was like, hey, and we started talking and everything, and I was like, hey, give me your number. And she said, oh, you wouldn't like me anymore. And I said, why wouldn't I like you? We were great friends, And she said, well, I started going to church. And she said, but if you want to go to church with me. And I was like, okay, I'll go.
Probably when what I was doing wasn't working, it was not fulfilling my spirit, and that is how we are who we are. That is how all of us are individuals, unique. Everyone has their own differences, and while we have a lot alike, if it's not pouring in my spiritual part of my wellness and my health, that's when I knew that something was off. And while emotional and mental and physical health is extremely important just as well, for me, it's spiritual health first and foremost, because that's how I'm able to be who I am. That's how I'm able to be who God created me to be. And that was during the year that I went through a lot of grief, went through a lot of losses. I guess you could say that last season, what I was doing was not serving its purpose anymore. And that was in 2021. And I knew that I needed to make a change. I needed to tap into my spirit, tap into my Creator, just realign with the purpose that He has for me.
I'll say a time when I knew I needed to make a change was with my weight. I was at one point 300 pounds and I was literally suffering. I had anxiety. I was having panic attacks. I wasn't treating myself right. I was in the emergency room 14 times in 2021 and my health was just declining. So I ended up luckily being able to find a good fitness place where I could go, and I ended up just tapping into it, and now I've tapped into it so much I've started my own business, and it focuses on losing weight, and it also not even necessarily losing weight, but just keeping us moving, keeping your spirits high. It's helped control my anxiety. It's helped control me in a social world. I've been able to meet new people when I thought I wasn't even able to meet friends and be able to have stable friendships. God bless me with 2 great new people in my life who I would have never even thought that we would ever be friends, and we've known each other for years, but God aligned it for this year for us to be able to connect and be able to just flourish together.
I can say when I was in high school, that's when I realized I needed to make a change. I was more of trying to be the fit-in kid. I wasn't really worried about my education. I was just going to school to have fun, and I wasn't really benefiting from it. 12th grade year, I got kicked out of high school, and I had a choice to either go to North C. Taylor or I had to go to Forest Park, in which I finished out my high school year and graduated and went to Forest Park. But that made me realize how important school was to me, because my education is what takes to get me to where I am today, is in learning with my camera business and me just learning everything in general. I didn't think that me needing an education would take me anywhere in life, or I didn't take it serious, should I say, in life, and that's when I felt like I needed to change. So then I actually started, when I met my wife, she actually showed me more things to life than what I actually knew, as in not in school, not thinking further in life than the vision that I had in my life. So, and she actually helped me go out and see things outside of my neighborhood of where I live. She was the first person I ever went on a trip with out of town to actually see other things, and she was a part of that too. When me coming out of high school and actually experiencing other things than what I had planned for myself. So when she opened my eyes, I realized that I need to make a change, because it's more better out here for me than what I had pictured from me in my head. So I would say high school.
I think the last time that I realized I needed to make a big change was in love, and realizing that love was not a scoreboard or something that had to be immaculate and perfect all the time. I have a theory that you should have somebody that balances you out, mind, body, and soul. And those things are really important individually, but they have to be cohesive. And I've experienced different types of love as I've gotten older, but I had to make a change in love altogether, because it was a realization that was hard, that it's easier for me to love others and to love myself as well in the same right. because you can't coddle people and then get mad at them later. And it's kind of easy to do in love, in platonic and romantic relationships. So that had to be changed. And I hope to still do it. It's hard though. It's hard.
You doing it, baby. You doing it.
But that's my answer.